The autumn wind whipped through the park like a thief, stealing the last golden leaves from the trees and scattering them across the cracked pavement. An old man, his face a map of deep wrinkles carved by time and unspoken sorrows, shuffled toward a young woman sitting on a weathered bench, her eyes glued to her phone, oblivious to the world around her. With a voice as fragile as the paper in his gnarled hands, he whispered, "Miss, could you please read this letter for me? My eyes, they're not what they used to be." Elena looked up, startled, her busy morning routine shattered by the plea in his eyes. She was a 28-year-old marketing executive, always rushing from one meeting to the next, her life a whirlwind of deadlines and superficial connections. But something in the old man's trembling hands, holding that faded envelope like it was his last lifeline, tugged at her heart. She nodded, taking the letter gently, as if it were made of glass. "Of course," she said softly, unfolding the yellowed pages. The letter was dated 1945, the ink faded but still legible, written in an elegant, looping script that spoke of a different era. As Elena began to read aloud, her voice steady at first, the words painted a vivid picture of a young soldier named Harold, writing to his beloved wife, Margaret, from the trenches of World War II. "My dearest Margaret," she read, "the nights here are endless, filled with the echoes of gunfire and the cries of the wounded. But in my dreams, I see your face, feel your warmth, and it keeps me going." The old man, who introduced himself as Harold, sat beside her, his eyes misting over as memories flooded back. He had been that young soldier once, full of hope and fire, promising to return to the love of his life. Elena continued, her tone growing more emotional as the letter delved deeper into Harold's fears and longings. "I miss our little home by the river, the way the sun sets over the water, turning everything golden. Promise me you'll wait for me, my love. I'll come back, and we'll build that family we always dreamed of." Passers-by hurried along the path, wrapped in their coats against the chill, but Elena and Harold were in their own world now. She read on, describing the horrors of battle, the mud, the blood, the loss of comrades, but always circling back to love, to Margaret's letters that arrived like beacons in the dark. Harold nodded occasionally, a faint smile crossing his lips at the mention of small details, the scent of her perfume on the paper, the pressed flowers she had sent. Halfway through the letter, Elena's voice faltered. The words shifted, revealing a confession that hit her like a punch to the gut. "Margaret, there's something I must tell you," she read, her throat tightening. "In the chaos of this war, I've made a mistake. A moment of weakness with a nurse here at the base. It meant nothing, but I can't bear the guilt. Please forgive me." Tears welled in Elena's eyes as she continued, the old man's face paling beside her. The letter poured out Harold's remorse, his pleas for understanding, how the war had broken him in ways he never imagined. And then, the sobs came deep, wrenching sobs that shook Elena's body. She couldn't hold them back. The raw emotion of the words mirrored something buried deep within her own life, a betrayal she had suffered just months ago from her fiancé. Harold reached out a hand, placing it on her arm. "Miss, are you all right?" he asked, concern etching his features deeper. But Elena waved him off gently, wiping her eyes, determined to finish. The letter ended with Harold's vow to make amends, to be the man Margaret deserved if he survived. "Forever yours, Harold." As she folded the paper, silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken stories. Elena handed it back, her voice hoarse. "That was beautiful and heartbreaking." Harold sighed, staring at the envelope. "It's been 80 years since I wrote that. Margaret, she never read it. I came home, but things were different. She had moved on, thinking I was dead after a false report." Elena's heart ached for him. She thought of her own pain, how her ex's affair had shattered her trust. "Why keep it all this time?" she asked. Harold smiled sadly. "To remind myself of who I was and who I lost. But today, hearing it again, maybe it's time to let go." They talked for hours that morning, the park coming alive around them with joggers and dog walkers. Harold shared stories of his life after the war, working in a factory, raising a family with a second wife who had passed a decade ago, but always carrying the ghost of Margaret. Elena opened up too, about her broken engagement, the loneliness that followed. In that stranger's company, she felt seen for the first in a long time. As the sun climbed higher, Harold pulled out a small photo from his wallet, an old black-and-white image of a young woman with kind eyes. "This is her," he said. "Margaret." Elena studied it, seeing the resemblance to someone she knew, but she couldn't place it. Little did she know, this encounter was about to unravel threads connecting their lives in ways neither could imagine. The conversation flowed like a river finding its path after years of being dammed. Harold spoke of the letters he and Margaret exchanged before that fateful one, how they dreamed of a simple life, children laughing in the yard, growing old together. But war had other plans. "I was captured for months," he explained, his voice cracking. "By the time I escaped and made it home, she had remarried. I didn't blame her. The world thought I was gone." Elena listened intently, her own tears drying as empathy swelled in her chest. She shared her story in return: the late nights at work, the discovery of messages on her fiancé's phone, the way betrayal had left her questioning every relationship. "It's like a part of you dies," she said. Harold nodded wisely. "But another part learns to live again. That's the human spirit, miss. It bends, but it doesn't always break." As they delved deeper, a twist emerged unexpectedly. A middle-aged man approached the bench, his face lighting up in recognition. "Dad, what are you doing here?" he called out. Harold's son, Michael, had been searching the park after his father wandered off from their nearby home. Michael was a sturdy man in his 50s, with the same kind eyes as his father, but lines of worry etched from years of caregiving. Michael sat down, introducing himself to Elena. "He's been doing this more lately, slipping away with old letters. Alzheimer's is creeping in." Harold looked confused for a moment, then smiled. "Michael, my boy, this young lady just read me a letter from your mother." But Michael shook his head gently. "Dad, that letter's not from Mom. Mom was your second wife, remember? Margaret was. Before." Elena's eyes widened. The twist hit her. Harold's mind was blending memories, the letter a relic he carried like a talisman. Michael explained in a low voice how Harold had found the unsent letter years ago while cleaning out the attic, and now, in his fading memory, he revisited it obsessively, seeking forgiveness that Margaret had actually granted in person decades later. They had reconciled as friends before she passed. This revelation shifted everything for Elena. What she thought was a straightforward tale of lost love was layered with the cruelty of time and illness. Michael's presence added a new dimension, his quiet frustration mixed with unwavering love highlighting the burdens of family. "It's hard watching him fade," Michael confessed. "But moments like this, when someone listens, it means the world." Elena felt a surge of emotion, the twist emphasizing the story's human value, how we hold onto fragments of the past, even as they slip away. She stayed longer, helping Michael coax Harold back home, promising to visit. As they parted, Harold pressed the letter into her hands. "Keep it," he said. "Maybe it'll help you forgive, like she did me." The day wore on, but Elena couldn't shake the encounter. She returned to her apartment that evening, the letter burning a hole in her pocket. Unfolding it again, she read it silently, tears flowing anew. The words resonated deeper now, not just as Harold's confession, but as a mirror to her own unresolved pain. In the weeks that followed, Elena found herself drawn back to the park, hoping to see Harold again. She did, several times, each visit revealing more layers of his life. One afternoon, as they sat together, Harold shared stories of his grandchildren, how Michael's daughter, now in college, reminded him of Margaret. Elena smiled, feeling a budding friendship that filled the voids in both their lives. But the twist with Michael lingered, prompting Elena to reflect on her own family. She hadn't spoken to her estranged mother in years, a rift born from similar betrayals in her childhood. Inspired by Harold's resilience, she picked up the phone one night, dialing the number she knew by heart. "Mom, it's me. We need to talk." Their conversation was tearful, raw, but healing. Elena learned her mother had her own letters of regret, unsent apologies for choices made in desperation. The parallel struck her profoundly, the cycle of human error and redemption spanning generations. Back in the park, Harold's condition worsened slightly, but Michael's gratitude grew. He invited Elena to family dinners, where she met the extended clan, each member carrying pieces of Harold's story. Through it all, the letter became a symbol, passed around like a sacred text, reminding them of forgiveness's power. As winter approached, the leaves gone and the air crisp, Elena realized how one simple act reading a letter had transformed her. She was no longer the hurried stranger. She was part of something larger, a tapestry of lives woven with sorrow and grace. Elena's life began to intertwine more deeply with Harold's family as the seasons shifted. What started as chance park meetings evolved into regular visits to Harold's modest home on the outskirts of the city, a cozy bungalow filled with faded photographs and the scent of old books. Michael welcomed her warmly, seeing how her presence lit up his father's eyes on good days. "You're like a granddaughter he never knew he needed," Michael said one evening over coffee, his voice thick with emotion. Harold's Alzheimer's progressed in unpredictable waves. Some days, he was sharp, recounting war tales with vivid detail, the camaraderie in the barracks, the terror of night raids. Other days, he mistook Elena for Margaret, calling her by that name and asking about letters long lost to time. Elena played along gently, reading from the original letter or improvising responses that brought him peace. It was during one such foggy afternoon that another unexpected twist unfolded. As Elena sat by Harold's bedside, reading aloud from a book of poetry he loved, the door creaked open. In walked a woman in her 70s, elegant with silver hair pinned neatly, carrying a bouquet of fresh lilies. "Harold," she called softly. Michael's face drained of color as he rushed in. "Aunt Lydia, what are you doing here?" Lydia was Margaret's younger sister, a figure from Harold's distant past whom the family rarely mentioned. She had tracked Harold down after seeing a social media post Michael made about his father's condittione, a plea for old friends to share memories. Lydia's arrival was like a ghost stepping into the light, bringing with her a satchel of letters, photographs, and secrets that reshaped the narrative Elena thought she knew. "I was there when Margaret received the news of your death," Lydia explained, her eyes welling as she sat beside Harold, who stared at her in confusion at first, then recognition dawned. She was devastated, but she waited as long as she could. When she remarried, it was for stability, not love. But she never stopped wondering about you. The twist deepened the emotional layers. Lydia revealed that Margaret had written her own letters to Harold after the war, unsent because she believed him gone forever. One, in particular, confessed her forgiveness for the affair he had admitted in his letter, forgiveness granted in her heart long before they reconnected platonically years later. "She found your letter among my things after I visited the base," Lydia said. It broke her, but she understood. War changes people. Elena listened, sobs catching in her throat again. This new perspective from a peripheral character suddenly central highlighted the story's humanitarian core, how misunderstandings and time warp our truths, yet compassion can bridge the gaps. Lydia's presence emphasized sibling bonds, lost opportunities, and the enduring ripple effects of love. Harold, in a lucid moment, took Lydia's hand. "You look just like her," he murmured. Tears streamed down Lydia's face as she shared stories of Margaret's later years, her children, her quiet regrets, her deathbed wish to know if Harold had found happiness. The room filled with a profound sense of closure, Elena feeling like an intruder yet integral to this reunion. Inspired by this, Elena delved into her own past more aggressively. She met with her mother regularly now, unearthing family letters and photos that revealed her father's infidelity wasn't the full story. Her mother had her flaws too, but love had persisted in hidden ways. The parallels fortified Elena's growth, teaching her that forgiveness isn't erasure but acceptance. As Christmas neared, the family, including Lydia, now gathered for a holiday meal. Harold, frail but joyful, sat at the head, toasting to old letters and new friends. Elena proposed they compile the letters into a family memoir, a project that bonded them further. Michael's daughter, Sarah, a budding writer home from college, jumped in enthusiastically, her youthful energy infusing hope. But challenges arose. Harold's health declined, leading to hospital visits where Elena held his hand, reading the letter to soothe him. One night, as machines beeped softly, he whispered, "Thank you for reading it that day. You gave me back my voice." Elena sobbed quietly, realizing how one act of kindness had cascaded into profound change. Through it all, the twist with Lydia added nuance, showing how auxiliary characters can alter viewpoints, amplifying themes of redemption and human connection. Elena's life, once isolated, now brimmed with purpose, her heart mended by the very story that made her cry. Winter's grip tightened, but warmth persisted in their gatherings. Elena started volunteering at a local senior center, sharing Harold's story anonymously to inspire others. She even rekindled a tentative romance with a colleague, approaching it with newfound vulnerability. One stormy evening, as Elena reread the letter alone, a knock came at her door. It was Sarah, Michael's daughter, with a draft of the memoir. "Grandpa wants you to add your part," she said. Elena smiled through tears, the cycle continuing. With Lydia's integration into the family, the dynamics shifted in unexpected ways, injecting fresh emotional depth. She brought artifacts from Margaret's Liffia locket with Harold's photo inside, a diary entry describing their whirlwind romance before the war. These items became touchstones during their meetings, evoking laughter and tears in equal measure. Harold's lucid days grew rarer, but when they came, he regaled them with tales enriched by Lydia's corroborations, painting a fuller picture of young love amid chaos. Elena's role evolved from listener to active participant. She organized letter nights, where everyone shared personal correspondence, sold love notes, apologies, dreams penned on paper. Michael's contribution was a letter he wrote to his late mother, Harold's second wife, expressing gratitude for her patience with a man haunted by ghosts. Sarah added modern twists, reading emails from friends that mirrored timeless themes. Amid this, another subtle twist emerged through Sarah, the youthful wildcard. During one session, Sarah confessed a secret. She had been researching genealogy online and discovered a distant connection. Elena's great-aunt had served as a nurse during World War II, possibly the very one mentioned in Harold's letter. "It's not confirmed," Sarah said excitedly, "but the timelines match. What if your family crossed paths with Grandpa's before?" Elena reeled, the revelation twisting her perception. Was this coincidence or fate? It amplified the humanitarian message. We're all linked in invisible webs, our actions echoing across generations. The possibility that her ancestors' moment of weakness, with Harold, added irony and complexity, forcing Elena to confront inherited legacies of imperfection. She dove into research with Sarah, poring over records late into the nights. They uncovered letters from her great-aunt, describing wartime romances and regrets, paralleling Harold's story. This auxiliary character, Elena's own kin, shifted her viewpoint, emphasizing empathy over judgment. "If it's true," Elena mused, "then forgiving Harold is like forgiving my family." Harold, overhearing one day, chuckled weakly. "Life's full of circles, miss. Round and round we go." His words resonated, underscoring resilience amid frailty. As spring bloomed, Harold's condition stabilized temporarily with new medication, allowing a family outing to the river where he and Margaret once dreamed of living. They picnicked by the water, Lydia sharing Margaret's favorite recipes. Elena felt profound gratitude, her sobs from that first reading now transformed into joyful tears. But reality intruded. Harold suffered a minor stroke, confining him to bed. Elena visited daily, reading the letter like a ritual. Michael's exhaustion showed, but Lydia's support lightened the load, her presence a reminder of enduring bonds. Elena's personal growth peaked when she confronted her ex-fiancé, not with anger, but understanding. "I read a letter that changed me," she told him over coffee. "It taught me we're all flawed." Closure came, freeing her. The memoir project advanced, Sarah's writing capturing the essence. They titled it after the original letter, planning a small publication. Harold beamed at the draft, his eyes clear. "This is my legacy," he said. Summer brought warmth, but Harold's time waned. In quiet moments, Elena reflected on the journey from stranger to family. The twists had enriched the narrative, highlighting human values. Forgiveness heals, connections endure, kindness ripples. One evening, as fireflies danced outside, Harold passed peacefully, the letter clutched in his hand. The family gathered, sobs mingling with stories, celebrating a life well lived despite pains. Elena's heart broke anew, but strength emerged. She continued the letter nights, honoring him. In the aftermath of Harold's passing, the family clung together, the letter serving as their anchor. The funeral was intimate, held in the park where it all began, under blooming trees that whispered of renewal. Elena stood by the bench, reading excerpts aloud, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. Mourners, old friends, neighbors, even strangers touched by the memoir's early drafts wiped tears, moved by the tale's raw humanity. Lydia stayed on, moving into the bungalow to help Michael sort through Harold's belongings. They discovered more letters, correspondences with comrades, notes to his children, a final one addressed to the kind stranger who read for me. It was unfinished, but the sentiment clear gratitude for reigniting his spirit. Elena sobbed reading it, the words a posthumous twist that deepened her bond. Sarah's genealogy research confirmed the link. Elena's great-aunt was indeed the nurse, her diaries mentioning a soldier named H, with regret. This revelation, shared at a family dinner, elicited gasps. "It's like destiny brought you to that bench," Michael said. Elena nodded, the twist reinforcing interconnectedness, urging compassion for past sins. Inspired, Elena quit her high-stress job, starting a nonprofit for seniors to share stories through letters. Harold's Legacy, she called it, facilitating readings and writings that bridge generations. Volunteers flocked, including Sarah, who paused college to help. The program healed many, echoing the story's values. Personal twists continued. Elena met a widower at the center, their romance blooming slowly, rooted in shared vulnerabilities. Michael's family expanded when Lydia revealed a long-lost niece, Margaret's granddaughter, who joined them, adding fresh perspectives. Years passed, the memoir published to acclaim, proceeds funding the nonprofit. Elena often visited the park bench, letter in hand, reflecting on that fateful day. Her sobs had evolved into purposeful tears, symbolizing growth. In quiet moments, she whispered to the wind, "Thank you, Harold." The story lived on, a testament to human resilience, kindness, and the power of one letter to change lives.